Now, preview time. So let's take a look at what's coming your way.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the War Zone, the weekly acquisition report, the show where I show you the latest additions to my ever-growing media library. I feel like I've said this a couple times already, but I'll go ahead and give you one more time here. The War Zone has changed from what it once was. You know, Once upon a time, it was all about the newest DVDs and Blu-rays that I was adding to my library. But with most big name stores, Best Buy, Target, Walmart's, even Dollar Trees, not carrying movies anymore. There's a Big Lots that went out of business over here by me that I used to find a lot of deals at. Still a couple Big Lots in my area, but the Big Lots that went out of business was in an area that I had deemed the danger zone. And I called it that because you had a Big Lots right next to a Dollar Tree, both of which had insanely cheap prices on movies. Then a half a block away, you have a Goodwill, which has cheap prices on movies and records and etc. And then across the street from that was a 99-cent store, which once upon a time had movies. They ceased carrying them around the same time Dollar Tree really beefed up their movie selection, and now 99-cent store has gone out of business. So the danger zone isn't exactly dangerous for me anymore. But as a result of movies being harder to find in big time retail stores, and even pawn shops phasing them out, thrift stores drastically reducing them, I decided to make the war zone all media. So right now it's very heavily featured with records, books. Maybe there'll be CDs one week. Maybe if I actually find 10 movies on DVD or Blu-ray, I'll actually do one that's kind of a retro throwback to what the war zone used to be. But in the meantime, in between time, we're just focusing on all media. This week, we have another stack of records for you. Pretty much all of them are from thrift stores. One of them is from a pawn shop, and we'll do that one first because I really want to talk about this one a little bit. Bobby Gentry's Fancy. I don't know how many of y'all are familiar with Bobby Gentry or even the song Fancy. I know the song Fancy from the cover that Reba McEntire did. But this is the original version of Fancy. And then it's also got a cover of Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head, I'll Never Fall in Love Again. I'm not sure if I've ever heard Bobby Gentry's version of Fancy. Maybe I have once when I first discovered Reba's version. You know, and when you first discover a song and somebody that you know knows of the original, you always get that, you think that's a cool new song, well, check this out. And they hit you with the original. I know I've done that with my daughter. I've done that with my girlfriend's kids. Your parents have probably done it to you or your grandparents. So I might have heard Bobby's version of Fancy when I first heard Reba's, but to have it now on vinyl forever, because I don't see myself getting rid of my records like I did when I was a kid, and I gave you that story a couple episodes ago. But I just don't see that happening. So to have that now, I'm really kind of happy for that. Everything else we're going to do now is from a thrift store. And the best transition I could think of to make from Bobby Gentry, no, I don't have the Reba album with Fancy, although I am on the hunt for it. Linda Ronstadt's Greatest Hits. And I mean, again, granted, it's a Greatest Hits album, so it should have banner after banner. But I mean, You're No Good, Silver Threads and Golden Needles, Desperado, That'll Be the Day, When Will I Be Loved, Heat Wave, Cracks of My Tears, and my favorite Linda Ronstadt song, the reason I made sure to buy this, Different Drum. Different Drum was written by Michael Nesmith from the Monkees. You may remember on the last record episode I did talking about the debut album of the Monkees. Mike Nesmith wrote Different Drum, which was a huge hit for Linda. So to have that, in addition to all those other songs that I rattled off, chef's kiss. Then we go to Chicago. And Chicago has always been one of those bands that's very hit or miss for me. They'll have a couple of good songs that I like, and then they'll go through a bunch of songs I could care less about. And then they'll have another song that I like, then they'll have a bunch more I could care less about. But this album right here has their song Saturday in the Park. And for me, that's just one of their quintessential songs, along with You're the Inspiration and some of the other tracks that they came out with in the 80s. But to find the album that had Saturday in the Park, I had to have that. And again, I think I mentioned this on one of the other shows. Do you buy a greatest hits album, or do you just buy the one that's got that the song originated on? I could have hunted for a greatest hits album, but that was $2 at Goodwill. Goodwill usually prices their stuff at $4 for records, $3.99. But when they do Color of the Week, it's 50% off from Sunday through Wednesday. Thursday, the Color of the Week is $2.79. Friday, it's $2.50, and Saturday, it's $2. Well, with as popular as records are, I go in, or I try to go in on Sunday when the Color of the Week changes, because 50% of $4 is $2. So why wait for Saturday for it to be $2 when I can get it the first day that it's the Color of the Week and try to get it before everything gets picked through? My logic, anyways. Makes sense to you? Let me know. Tom Jones, live in Las Vegas. Now, of course, younger fans know Tom Jones, and the song It's Not Unusual is the song that Carlton Banks from The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air always would do his little dance to. Tom Jones is no joke, though. This album right here, just a couple of tracks. It's got a cover of Hard to Handle, which I know primarily from the Black Crowes in the 90s. Obviously, that was a cover. Forgive me for not remembering the original artist. It's got Tom's big hit Delilah, Danny Boy, which is a traditional Irish song, I believe. Oh, Danny Boy. I'll Never Fall in Love Again, which was on the Bobby Gentry album. He's got covers of the Beatles, Yesterday, and Hey Jude. It's Not Unusual, his signature song. And it ends with Twist and Shout, which again, Medley and Russell, huge hit for the Isley Brothers, but let's be honest, the Beatles made Twist and Shout a huge song. So much so that in the 80s, when it was used in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, it charted again for the Beatles. So to hear Tom Jones tackle some of those songs, and especially the Beatles songs live, very, very interested as a Beatles fan. Speaking of the Beatles, no, not a Beatles album, but an artist that they did write some songs for. Jerry and the Pacemakers' greatest hits. Ferry Cross the Mersey. How Do You Do It? Don't Let the Sun Catch You Crying. Great, great songs here. How Do You Do It was actually sang by the Beatles. You can find it on their Anthology 1 album. George Martin wanted them to do it, and they were like, no, we're better writing our own stuff. Why don't you give this to Brian's new band, Brian Epstein, Jerry and the Pacemakers? Ta-da! Here it is on their greatest hits. Like I said, along with Ferry Cross the Mersey, Don't Let the Sun Catch You Crying. Iconic songs from the British invasion. Again, much like Herman's Hermits, they had a few hits, but they didn't quite achieve the same success that the Beatles did, the Rolling Stones did, even the Who did a few years later. Next one I'm going to show you, I showed you a couple weeks ago, or a week ago, I forget when it was, Hank Williams' greatest hits. Gene Autry's greatest hits. Gene Autry was a favorite of my grandma's. So no ifs, ands, or buts. That is why I bought this. My grandma, still kind of emotional to talk about. She passed away about 4 years ago. Miss her every day. Miss my grandpa every day. He passed away about 5 years ago. I don't know a lot of Gene Autry songs. I'm going to be completely honest with it. I know a few. Back in the Saddle Again. Track 1, side 1. It's how this thing kicks off. That's how it should kick off. I recognized the song Ghost Riders in the Sky. Didn't know Gene Autry did it. Love Ghost Riders in the Sky. I was originally introduced to it via the Country Bear Vacation Hoedown show from Disneyland. Of course, Johnny Cash does a great cover of it. Never heard Gene Autry's. Curious. Red River Valley. Home on the Range. You Are My Sunshine. That actually ties to wrestling. What? How does that tie to wrestling? I'm glad you guys asked. Go back and find the original full-length version of Three Live Crew's remix theme from TNA. It starts with Gene Autry going, "You are my sunshine, my only sunshine." And then it kicks in, "This mother is a bad gem. Beware, coming for you. It's the remix, Three Live Crew." That is sampled at the beginning of that. So again, as a wrestling fan, as a country music fan, as someone who got this to listen to and think about and remember his grandma, perfect song to have on here. This one, okay. This one is going to be kind of fun to talk about. You want to talk about stuff that makes you think of people. I'm sure I've mentioned this before. I probably mentioned it when I reviewed the film, because I'm pretty sure I reviewed it on Renegades Reviews. Yankee Doodle Dandy, starring James Cagney, the story of George M. Cohan, one of my dad's favorite movies. When I was young and he tried to get me to watch it, refused to watch it. It was boring. My daughter kind of feels the same way. She's about the same age I was when I felt that it was boring. So I can't be too mad at her. I'm sure in time she'll grow to appreciate it. She loves acting. She loves musicals. And while this isn't the soundtrack per se to Yankee Doodle Dandy, it is a record of songs written by George M. Cohan, entitled Yankee Doodle Dandy. Orchestra and chorus conducted by John R. Williams, not the same John Williams who did the Jaws theme, the Star Wars theme, the Indiana Jones theme. It's completely different John Williams, hence the middle initial. Yankee Doodle Dandy, So Long Mary, 45 Minutes from Broadway, Harrigan, Give My Regards to Broadway, Mary's a Grand Old Name, You're a Grand Old Flag, Over There. There's only 3 songs on this album that I don't recognize. 3 songs on this album that I don't believe were in Yankee Doodle Dandy, the movie. Maybe upon listening to them, I'll recognize them. But all the ones that I listed, I know from the movie Yankee Doodle Dandy. starring James Cagney as George M. Cohan. So to find this record, I'm curious. I really want to hear these versions of the songs. The last three records I'm going to show you are all Christmas albums. And again, you guys out there should know how huge of a Christmas fanatic I am. I love Christmas. It's my favorite holiday. Elvis's Christmas album. Blue Christmas, Silent Night, White Christmas, Santa Claus is back in town. I'll be home for Christmas. Here comes Santa Claus. Santa, bring my baby back to me. Classic Christmas songs and classic Elvis Christmas songs. Blue Christmas, Santa Claus is back in town, and Santa, bring my baby back to me make this record worth it just on principle alone. Then again, you've got Silent Night, you've got White Christmas, you've got I'll Be Home for Christmas, Here Comes Santa Claus, Oh Little Town of Bethlehem, and the definitive, distinct voice of Elvis Aaron Presley. Likewise, Andy Williams' Christmas album. You've got White Christmas, Happy Holiday, It's the Holiday Season, the Christmas song. It's the most wonderful time of the year, arguably his signature Christmas song. It's either that or Happy Holiday, the Holiday Season. The First Noel, Oh Holy Night, Away in a Manger, Little Drummer Boy, Silent Night. Again, Happy Holiday, Holiday Season, most wonderful time of the year, worth the price of this album alone. Then you get those other traditional Christmas songs in the distinct Andy Williams voice. White Christmas, the Christmas song, First Noel, Oh Holy Night, Away in a Manger, Little Drummer Boy, etc. Looking forward to listening to that entire thing. And then finally, I've got Christmas with Chet Atkins. Those of you unfamiliar with Chet Atkins is primarily just a guitar player. So a lot of his stuff is instrumental. But he's one of those iconic guitar players. Very much country. I believe he was on Sun Records with Elvis, Johnny Cash, and those guys back in the day. This is an RCA release, but Jingle Bell Rock, Winter Wonderland, Jolly Old St. Nicholas, White Christmas, Blue Christmas, Jingle Bells, Silver Bells. That's just side one. Little Drummer Boy, First Noel, Hark the Herald Angels Sing, O Come All Ye Faithful, Deck the Halls, Silent Night, and a medley of the Coventry Carol and God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen. That's all a side two. Amazing song selection here for an amazing guitar player. Can't wait for Christmas time to be able to listen to those. What do you guys think of this haul? Let me know. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. What are your guys' thoughts of Chet Atkins, Andy Williams, and Elvis Presley's Christmas albums? Have you heard Bobby Gentry's Fancy? What are your thoughts on Tom Jones? Let me know. Leave your thoughts in the comment box. Let's engage in some conversation, some discussion. You guys know how much I love getting interactive with you guys. I want to thank everybody for joining me for this edition of the War Zone. And until next week, catch you guys later.